Hello, growers. Welcome to Growing with Sarah. I'm Sarah, and I am so excited that you guys are here today. Today, we are going to talk about seed starting gear, specifically lighting, which is pretty much your most important piece. And it's the most difficult to make a decision on. There are a few different parts of it. So today we're going to talk about LED versus fluorescent lighting, and we're going to talk about lumens, and we're going to talk about kelvins. So essentially everything you need to know to decide what type of lighting you want to use and or purchase for starting your seeds. Okay, before we jump into all of that, let's take a little trip back to fifth grade and talk about photosynthesis so we can understand why light is so important for plants. Photosynthesis is the process by which plants convert sunlight, carbon dioxide, and water into glucose and oxygen. So this is how the plant makes its energy. When we're growing plants indoors, we need to mimic the sunlight as closely as we possibly can in order to give that plant the very best start. Now, there's some wiggle room in there. So don't worry about that. We're going to get there. I just wanted to make sure that everyone understands why lighting is so important. If you don't have light, you don't have seedlings that grow well enough to handle the process of then being transplanted out into your garden. So it's important that you give them the best start that you possibly can. So let's talk about the things we can look for in our indoor lighting that can make a plant sort of feel like it's outside as much as possible. Really, we want to look at two things, and that's kelvins and lumens. A kelvin is a temperature measurement. Temperature measurement, yeah. It's a temperature measurement. In this particular case, we look at a Kelvin as a measurement of color temperature. So if we talk about the color yellow, we talk about that color as being warm. And when we talk about the color blue, we talk about that color as being cool, right? So the scale for Kelvin is between 1,000 and 10,000. If the kelvins are in the lower range, then that color is considered warmer. And if they are in the higher range, then that color is considered cooler. So an example of a warm color lighting would be like candlelight. So a candle gives off very warm yellow orange tones and lights its space in those colors. And it would measure right around 2000 or less on kelvins. But if it were a really super bright blue sunny day, not a cloud in the sky, perfect, that could be considered upwards of 8,000 kelvins. So I hope that that gives some sort of understanding of what a Kelvin is. A seedling will survive and grow anywhere between about 2,700 and 6,500 Kelvin. A seedling will thrive anywhere between about 5,000 Kelvin and 6,500 Kelvin. So you don't have to have a very special grow light in order to grow a seedling. If you want your seedling to have the most optimal situation that you can possibly give it indoors, then you want to stay between that 5,000 and 6,500 Kelvin. And you're going to find that mainly with lights that are marked as grow lights. If you look at like your soft white light bulb in your house that you might be using, hold on a second, actually. Okay, so I'm back and I grabbed my GE soft white LED light bulbs. I use these in all the rooms in my house. You probably use something similar. So when I look at the side of the box, it gives you a breakdown of all kinds of things, but you can see here that it says 2700K. That means that on the low end of the scale of kelvins, we could still grow seedlings just using a light bulb like this in order to get it started. I don't recommend it. I think that you should go higher if you can afford it. But if you can't afford it, or really the situation that I would say to use something like this would be in conjunction with like a window. So if you have a window and you have a light, like a bendy light on your plant, then that would double up on the amount of light that you could use for your plant without having to go out and buy a whole bunch of fancy lights. Or if you're growing on a shelving situation or on your table, your counter, wherever your seedlings are growing, and you just don't want to go out and buy something with more kelvins, or this is what you have on hand, you don't want to spend the money, totally understandable. I'm going to talk about some deals that I got on my lighting today. But if you wanted to use this, you technically could use this to grow seedlings. Now, it's not going to throw out as much light as you need it to surrounding wise, so you might need multiple fixtures, and it's not going to be great for the plant once it gets to a certain age. Like, I would only recommend using something like this for seedlings that you're going to have in the house for a month, maximum, maybe 6 weeks. It can really, if you have a flowering plant like a tomato or a pepper and you try to keep it under a light like this, it might not get enough energy to get to that stage, and then it'll get leggy and it'll get weird. And when you put it outside, you might think, well, it's still alive. It's just a little leggy and string beanie. When you put it outside, it will take longer to catch up and become strong. So it could actually hinder any harvest time that you get off of that plant, which kind of defeats the purpose of starting vegetables indoors. With flowers, same thing. So you might not get to the flowering stage if you grow for cutting and things like that. You might not get to that stage until much later, maybe even a month later, in your season than a plant grown under the correct lighting would get to. So just take that into account when you think about, using something like just regular indoor lighting. But that 27 Kelvin or 2700 Kelvins, sorry. If I've been saying Calvin this whole time, I apologize. It's Kelvins. I'll spell it. Um, and if you're thinking about just using a regular 2700 Kelvin light bulb to grow your seedlings, make sure that you are not going to have them under that light for very long. A month maximum, really. That's where I would go, a month. And even then, I would say just stick them in a window instead of using the light bulbs, but these light bulbs. But if you could use this in combination with a window, then I'd say you're good to go. But anyways, okay, so I've rambled now, and I meant not to ramble. I wrote notes and everything, but I just can't help it. Okay, so that's kelvins. So if you have your grow lights, like these lights here are, let me grab the box. So these are 6,500 kelvins, right? That's fantastic. That's daylight. That's comparable. And these are not marked as grow lights. Um, they don't have super high lumens, but we'll get into that in a minute. But they are the T8 fluorescent bulbs. And the kelvins on them are really perfect for growing. Basically, what between 5,000 and 6,500 kelvins is going to mimic is noontime on a blue day, a sunny day with like big fluffy clouds in the sky. Then the next type of lighting that I have is a fluorescent bulb, but it is actually marked as a grow light. You can see here T5 high output horticulture bulb, or horticulture lamp. Okay, so these are, I use these with a grow light that my daughter got for me last year. These are 2 foot. Essentially, they're the exact same thing as these bigger ones that are the 4 foot, and I just have these in a shop fixture, and we'll talk about fixtures in just a minute. And these ones have about 5,000 lumens they put off per bulb. So, and I have a lighting fixture that takes 4 of them. So I'm looking at around 20,000 lumens coming out of that lighting fixture. Let me grab that. Okay, so this is the lighting fixture that my daughter got for me. I'm sorry, I've had this for a while, so I'm not really sure what the brand is on this, but basically it's a fluorescent grow, for fluorescent bulbs. It's a grow light that takes fluorescent bulbs. It takes, and I use the Vivasun 2 foot T5 high output horticulture lamp bulb, 6,500 Kelvin and 5,000 lumens. So with 4 of them in here gives me 20,000 lumens coming out of this particular fixture. And then last I have these are the first type of grow light that I ever purchased. I got these off of Amazon. Oh my gosh, so many years ago. There's just, I mean, these things have held up forever. These are LEDs. They have red and blue lights. They're rated at 5,000 5,000 Kelvin. And they're great. And I know when I bought these, I was able to get like 2 packs of them. I want to say for like $25 or $30, but now when I look on Amazon, they are upwards more of $50 for a 2 pack of these. But I can say that these have lasted me at least 5 years. I've had these, and they've been fantastic. So a little bit on the cheaper side as far as grow lights go, but still not cheap. But shop around and you can find some deals. So that's what I was gonna say. Like that fixture, this grow lamp fixture here, I never would have purchased this for myself. My daughter gave it to me as a gift. I never would have purchased that for myself at all. But and then these grow lights that I have replacement bulbs, and luckily I found this deal for these replacement bulbs just as I had one of the bulbs that came with that fixture go out. But I got these at Goodwill. I think they say 19.99, but the color that day was purple. And so they were 50% off. So I got these for $10 and I replaced the bulb in there. There's 2 in there, and I've got 2, 4, 6, 7 more in here. So that was the deal of the century. And not just that, I also got this fixture here for $5. Same deal at Goodwill. And I got these lights. So it was like somebody who had been growing but decided to stop what they were doing. They decided not to do, and I got this too. Same deal. So they were originally marked $8 and I got them for $4. And that's like, I mean, that saved me. I mean, between and this fixture and the bulbs and those bulbs, I definitely saved over $100 getting them there. That's one of my mottos in life is if you need something, always go to Goodwill first. Search secondhand. People give stuff up in fantastic condition because they're not doing it anymore. I've done it myself, where I'm like, I bought this and I never use it, and so you just give it away. So I always search the secondhand shops first. So always shop Goodwill first. If you learn nothing else from this video, always shop Goodwill first. Okay, so let's recap kelvins quickly. So kelvins are a measurement of temperature of color on a light source, okay? The lower the Kelvin, the warmer the color. The higher the Kelvin, the cooler the color. You can start seeds and keep seedlings alive anywhere between 2700 Kelvin, okay, and 6500 Kelvin. Or seedlings will thrive, they will be their best between 5000 and 6500 Kelvin. Okay, so that's Kelvins. I think that that's the most important thing. If you're picking out lighting and you're going to have seeds inside your house for longer than 4 to 6 weeks, seedlings inside your house for longer than 4 to 6 weeks, I say go with something between 5000 and 6500 Kelvin. So let's talk about a window really quick. So a window is a good place to start seedlings. You just have to remember that the glass of your window is going to diffuse and weaken the amount of Kelvin and lumen that the plant receives. So you might be like, oh, well, I have these in the brightest window in my house, and but still my tomato plants are leggy. That's because the windows, they break up the light. Still, I would only use a window for my seedlings, and I do use the window for my seedlings all the time. I do for ones that I'm not going to be having in the house for longer than 4 to 6 weeks. So I use everything, all of the light sources available to me. And you may find that you do the same, that you're like, okay, well, for this type of plant, I prefer to have it over in this area. And for other types of plants, like ones that need to be in the house longer, you may feel like you want to have a couple of more expensive or more specialty type lamps. Okay. So then the second thing we want to talk about when we talk about picking out a lighting source for our seedlings is lumens. Lumens is the measurement of the brightness of a light bulb, or the strength of light coming from that light bulb. In general, the higher the better. These bulbs that I have here, they do have 65 Kelvin, 6500 Kelvin, but they only have 2400 lumen. So together, there's two of them in this particular fixture. That gives me close to 5000 lumen. That's not very strong. If I, but I can compensate for that by moving the light closer to my plant. General rule of thumb is the higher the lumen on your lamp, the further away it can be from your seedlings. Okay. And I know a lot of people have questions about how close should their lamps be to their seedlings. I will put my lamps, regardless of lumens, kelvins, I will put them as close to my seedlings as I possibly can, and just adjust them. I will either move the plant up close to the lamp if the lamp itself is not adjustable, or move the lamp down closer to the plant. And I try to keep them within 1 to 2 inches of my plants all the time. Now there is some caveats to that. So for me, before I start that, for me, lumens is not necessarily an important number. I really focus on Kelvin. I want to make sure that I have the right color temperature for my plant to be able to go through the process of photosynthesis as well as it possibly can, and be as strong as it possibly can because of it. And that requires the correct Kelvin. The lumens, I can work with something lower um, by adjusting the proximity of my light to my plant. Now, here's the caveats. When you use an LED fixture, right? Great. Your plants can be touching this all day long. No worries. You've got your little plant here and it's just like, oh, right up on it. It doesn't matter. I'm so sorry. This is probably why this spider plant doesn't love me that much. Although I want to say, oh, special thank you to Lorena who told me that my spider plant would love to be in the sun. So it's back here on the little table and I can't say it's necessarily doing any better, but it's only been a week. It's not dead. So thank you, Lorraine. I really appreciate your help with that. Um, and if anybody else has any other tips on how to keep a spider plant alive or any other gardening tips at all, put them down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Everybody can learn from that. So, but an LED lighting fixture, you can have your plants touching this all day long. It's not going to get too hot and burn and kill your plant. Okay. Um, Contrary to that, fluorescent bulbs, this fixture will get very hot. Not, I say very hot. It's not so hot that like I can't touch it, but too hot for a plant to be touching. And even sometimes too hot for a plant to be at 2 inches away from it. So that it's okay with this particular fixture because the lighting that I'm using in here all together with all four bulbs works out to be 20,000 lumens. So that means I can have this a little bit further away, maybe 8 inches, 6 to 8 inches away, where it's not going to be damaging my seedling because of the heat coming off of it. And it will still give the plant the energy that it needs. So, and that really is, in my opinion, the biggest difference maker between an LED and a fluorescent. Some other differences is that LEDs are typically more expensive, not hugely more expensive, but I mean, you could go out and look at grow lights. I saw a setup, I think it was called like Mars Landing or something like that. It was like $5,000, no word of a lie, a setup of grow lights, and I was blown away. I mean, it was intense, um, literally and figuratively. And but you can get grow lights, LED and fluorescent grow lights at reasonable prices these days, as far as those types of things go. Like I said, if you can't afford it, these square ones that I got off of Amazon are two for 50. That's still a lot of money. And in today's economy and, financial times, you might not have the money to go out and spend $50 on two grow lights. And that's cool. Use your window. Use your soft white light bulbs that you can get, for $4 a pack or something like that at Walmart, and in a cheap lighting fixture with a bendy neck, and put that over the top of your seedlings. Okay, so you can definitely find a way to do seedlings inside without having to break the bank or you stress yourself out, right? This should be enjoyable. You should be able to walk in to wherever your seedlings are and go, "Oh, look at my little baby seedlings," and be happy and be joyful and be hopeful for the future. Not be looking at a $5,000 lighting setup and think, "Oh my God, I'm going to be in debt for 2 years if I buy something like that," right? So don't do that to yourself. You don't have to. You can definitely start seedlings in a window. You can start seedlings in a window. You can start seedlings with a light bulb. And but that's another thing that's different between LEDs and fluorescent bulbs. Um, you pay a little bit more upfront for an LED, but LEDs do last longer. I've had those square ones for at least 5 years. I think my oldest ones might be 6 years old. And they're still going. I think I had one where one strip of lights has died, and that just happened last season. You pay a little bit more up front, but they last a little while longer. Yeah, that's up to you, really. But the biggest thing when you're thinking about the difference between LEDs and fluorescents is that you have to think about the heat that it is going to create for your plants. So if you have LED lights, you can put them right on top of your seedlings and they're going to be fine. Um, Fluorescent lights, you have to make sure that you are checking them regularly, that your plants are not too close, where if their leaves touch or get within an inch or so and the heat is too much for them, they'll burn. And then all your work is for naught, right? And that is frustrating and a little bit stressful. Let me recap again. In my opinion, the most important thing you can look for in indoor lighting first is kelvins. You want to mimic the color temperature of the sun, as closely as possible at that noontime sun on a very comfortable, sort of fluffy, cloudy day. Second is lumens. That is how strong your lamp is, and that is adjustable by moving your plants closer to your lights. If you guys have questions beyond what I've shared here, please put them in the comments. Let me know. I'll do my best to find out the answer for you or be able to, share my experiences as well. And other people in the comments can share their experiences with you too. The next thing we're going to talk about is I'm going to talk a little bit about my shelving setup. It's not that important necessarily, but I am going to talk about it a little bit. And I'm going to talk about soil and watering and fertilizing and probably a little bit of bug control in the next video. So I'm thinking of doing this as 2 parts. It may end up being 3 parts. We'll see. I can't seem to keep things to 1 part, but I really wanted to talk about lighting first because in my mind, it truly is the most important thing that you can do for your seedling is to give it, is to get that lighting as close to what that seedling would have if it were growing outdoors in its optimal conditions. Okay. All right. So thank you guys so much for being here today. Thank you for liking, subscribing, commenting, everything. I truly appreciate you, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.